Good evening. Welcome to another episode of our discussion series on climate action and disaster preparedness. As I mentioned in many of such discussions, this series of discussions are going along with the main event that the ABU 9th ABU Summit on climate action and disaster preparedness. Once again, throughout the series, we discuss number of issues related to the sector, that climate action and disaster prevention. But today we have selected another important subject. This is about climate financing and sustainable tourism. Both aspects of this topic are highly related to Sri Lanka, as well as to the global and regional arena as well. So, to discuss these things, we have a very expert and distinguished panel with us. First, I would like to introduce Professor Ruwan Ranasinghe. He is the Deputy Minister for Tourism, Sri Lanka. So, he is with us to discuss about the government policies and the matters related to the sustainable tourism, as well as financing for the sustainable tourism in climate sector. Then as we all know, he is a very prominent figure in tourism sector, Professor Suranga Silva of the Sustainable Tourism Unit of the University of Colombo, a well-known academic who dedicated his academic life towards the main subject of tourism. For a long time, he was one of our resource persons. At the same time, online, another expert is joining with us, Mr. Mohammed Didi Hardana. He is a climate finance specialist of Asian Disaster Preparedness Center from Thailand. So, I welcome you all, and first I would like to turn towards our minister. So, now there are a number of important facts we have to mention about the subject on climate financing and especially the tourism sector, sustainable tourism. So, when we take Sri Lanka, what are the steps taken by the government to ensure the sustainability in the tourism sector?
Thank you, Prasad, for having me in this important discussion. In fact, I need to get back to the election campaign that was leading. We promised the people of this country that we will build sustainable and an inclusive tourism economy. So, that will be our vision for this term. In fact, it should be, I think it should be continued minimum for a decade. So, we are here to build a sustainable and an inclusive tourism economy. So, in here we have first sustainability. So, talking about tourism is bit of a complex sector which engage so many sectors, like I mean, as we are talking today, the finance sector, financing, the climate conditions, let it be the ocean, wildlife, people, culture, heritage, so and so forth, almost everything. Yeah. So, it is mandatory to have a solid policy on the sustainability of all such bodies that we are working on in tourism. So, if you take particularly the ecology, yeah, so mainly we can divide into three areas, that is the ecological sustainability, socio-economic and the cultural. So, we actually, as promised, need to ensure now, for example, we have been running tourism for over 6 decades now, but still I feel like we are really focusing on 1 or 2 key destinations, like for example, Sigiriya, Oyala. almost over the capacity at the moment, given the numbers during the season. Now we are just heading to the coming winter season, and most of these places is overcrowded. Yeah, so we must have a mechanism about this capacity management. That is number one, because we are a small island, and of course our tourism is mainly based on the ecology or the environment. That is what I think the main reason for many tourists to come to Sri Lanka, particularly from overseas. Maybe our ocean, or whale watching, or turtle watching, or beaches, Singaraja rainforest, Yala, leopard, elephants, and so on and so forth. These are all about environment. So we need to ensure the sustainability. Yeah. So as I mentioned, we have put forward a lot of initiatives to ensure. We are working with mainly financing our projects with ADB and World Bank, and also we are investing from the tourism funds also. To talk about Sigiriya, there is a major development project we are working on to ease the traffic there, to develop Pidurangala as another, then we start capacity controls. So while the site is full, entry is full with Sigiriya, we can divert the rest to the Pidurangala. And Galevela area and the Kalawewa, this zone for elephant watching, we are going to develop that as a separate area. Yala the same. At the moment, most demanding entrance is the Palatupana one. Yeah, there are over 500, nearly actually over 700 now, safari jeeps waiting to enter per day to the park, which is over the capacity. So we are moving down to areas like Vellavaya, Buduruagala, or Lunugam, developing new entrance so that we can manage the capacity. And talking about the socio-economic, once again, we put forward this inclusivity where tourism need to bring the economic opportunities for local people. It should not be a business among few group or companies. So this is what this inclusivity, and we need to look at areas like Singaraja and rainforest and areas, and then maybe Deniyaya or Polonnaru Anuradhapura. And then areas like hill country, where I am from, Hatton area, especially another beautiful area, up country. So these areas need to focus on upcoming developments, of course focusing on the fragile ecosystems, ensuring the local communities are mobilized into the tourism product. So the future development projects, mainly funded by World Bank and ADB, particularly World Bank, mainly on nature-based tourism products, while ensuring the ecological sustainability and creating economic inclusivity for local people.
That's very important, because now when we take tourism, now currently the tourism very highly involved with the ecosystems, because ecotourism is one part of it, but not only ecotourism, all tourism aspects, because when tourists go for area, they have to respect the ecosystem and protect the ecosystem. These things are there. So what are the actions taken by the government while using our finance on sustainability to ensure this safety of ecosystems through this while we develop our tourism sector?
To start with, it is not easy to start a tourism business in Sri Lanka. Well, we are working on to ease it out, but this strict, rigid regulation is in fact to protect this. Yeah. So to start a tourism related project, there are more than 20 licenses and approvals or clearances to be ensured. Wildlife department, environment, forest, so and so forth, because these restrictions, all of them, to ensure this conformity or the adherence to whatever the standards that they have. So beyond that, for example, now last week actually we launched a special loan scheme for tourism sector. If some of those businesses, they are mainly working on ecologically sustainable tourism products, they are getting even better interest rate. There is normally good interest rate that we have around 8% for business crowd we have introduced. But if it is ecologically sustainable one, it will be 6%. So this is something financially that we have worked on. Other than that, different projects, like I can give another example from Pico Trail, which is a 320 kilometer curated trail which start from Lul Kandura Kandy and ends from Nuwara. This goes to all over Uva province, and this one divided into 22 sections. So initially funded by USAID, and they during the project actually gave especially focusing on this climate action, funded for sustainable SME or community based tourism initiatives around the trail, so that they will adhere into the environmental friendly mechanisms and develop the tourism products. And then we are also focusing very strictly on garbage management, solid and liquid both. Yeah, we are working on ADB with, in this case, specially recognized tourism zones run by SLTDA. We have designated sewerage treatment plants, and garbage segregation is done at the point of production, so properly processed. And areas like other emerged areas, like for example Alla, I can give as an example, which has not been that much of sustainable in terms of garbage management, which we have a huge dump in front of us actually, which has been developing over last 2 decades nearly. So now we have taken steps to work with KOICA and Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority to properly dump it and manage it in a more sustainable way. So let it be policy, let it be practice, monitoring, and all such areas. Our top priority is ecological sustainability, and that is, I think, climate action. And in fact, our financial framework, so mechanisms that will work in the future for tourism sector, mainly focusing on this area as well.
Yes, definitely. I really wanted to ask about Ella, because I will come back to you once again. Professor Suranga, now as our minister explained, now some countries are facing a problem on sustainable tourism, because now, for example, if you take Venice, now they are rejecting tourists, and our minister also said for some areas, some attractions are became over exploited for tourists. So how can we manage the balance of this sector? Because you are from the sustainable tourism area, so how can we manage this situation?
Thank you very much for inviting. I think our Deputy Minister clearly mentioned about the background and the government initiative already have taken. But I would like to tell about that sustainability is a balance in the different things. The sustainability means actually it is started from the sustain era, from Latin word, how we can run the hotel industry for long run, ensuring the community benefit and the ecological balance and the economic benefit. So when we look at some countries like Venice and Italy and some other countries, like now tourism has become a phobia right now. It has become not a euphoria.
Yes.
Or actually it was a euphoria, and sometimes it was called as a panacea, but now it has become a phobia right now. Most of the countries now trying to prevent tourists coming to their places, because it has become more environmental unfriendly, and community not responsible. There are non-responsible community interactions and different kind of socio-economic and environmental impact. So therefore, now sustainable tourism and the climate impact change, if I take into the considerations, and we can see that now the whole world is now trying to change the dimension of tourism development in different angle. Now actually now, even though we like or not, sustainability has become a emerging feature of the world right now. It has become the global plan. We can't ignore it. For that tourism industry also same. So therefore, now when you look at the demand trend of tourists, the most of the tourists are coming to a particular destination by looking at whether we are applying the sustainable practices. Example, if you go to the booking.com and other kind of research that have been done right now, that indicate that the tourists are so concerned about whether we are applying the sustainable practices or not. 86% of tourists, before they are coming to any destinations, they are looking at whether whether the destination is sustainably, environmentally and socio-culturally responsible destinations. So the biggest challenge right now, when this is happening, we can see that tourism industry has become a victim of the climate change at the same time and the vector of the climate change. So I would like to elaborate how victim, because of the island destinations, we are so depend on our tourism on the nature, culture and the diversity. So when you look at Sri Lanka, as Honorable Minister clearly explained, that most of the resources we are promoting for tourism is a very nature-based tourism product. So if it is affected by the climate change, so we are so vulnerable, and we have to be very careful when promoting tourism the right directions. So if you look at the resilient building of against the climate change, so there are a lot of strategies we have to follow to this one. But in general, we have to look at value change, how it is going to be changed, and how we can apply the circular economy concept to ensure sustainable and climate resilient tourism development in Sri Lanka.
Yes. Professor, now when we talk about the sustainability, what are the new areas can be introduced into our tourism sector? Because various countries, they do various type of researches, and they introduce various new aspects to tourism. So what are the things, rather than promoting beach and all these things, what are the new areas can be that we can introduce into our tourism sector?
Actually, tourism is actually experience selling industry, because it is more experience driven. So the new area, when you look at the tourist, when the tourists come in, we have to provide the socio-culturally and environmentally responsible tourism. So when we look at Sri Lanka tourism, we have enormous opportunities to promote environmental friendly, cultural responsible and people centric, and as our Deputy Minister said, inclusive type of tourism development. So example, now look at wellness tourism. Wellness tourism actually more towards for environment, and they are using local resources. When you look at the other kind of tourism, example right now, wellness, agri-tourism, and the tourism is connected with the nature, and they are protecting the nature rather than destroying the nature. So example, now wellness, example culture tourism also, we can see that culture is connected with the protection of the environment. So we have to think about different kind of product development. Now example, when the tourists are coming, they don't like to stay concrete jungle. They want to see environment friendly, very clean, green environment. Therefore, Sri Lanka has a comparative and competitive advantage also against our competitive destination. Now example, when you look at India, and when you look at the Maldives, when you look at the other countries, we have a comparative and competitive advantage. We have a lot of natural resources, and it's blended with the nature and the culture and the people. So as you rightly asked the question, right, what kind of product we can promote, we have to think about what kind of product we should promote to ensure the nature and protect the nature, and while ensuring the community well-being and the cultural protections. So agro-tourism, then the wildlife tourism, at the same time wellness, at the same time we can say about community tourism, village tourism. There can be different kind of tourism we can promote. But at the same time, even though other type of tourism we are promoting, we can think about how we can apply the principle of sustainable tourism applications. So there are a lot of opportunities. Now actually government is doing the very good initiations. Now national sustainable tourism certification is one of the key area, and I have seen that SME sector empowered with the knowledge and the application of sustainable tourism, and the big sector also now adhering with the sustainable tourism applications. So therefore in future we have very optimistic to have Sri Lanka as one of the best sustainable green tourism destinations.
Of course, we can have a very good faith because we could see even international tourism magazines and websites, they continuously name Sri Lanka. Very recently, the Jaffna city has also been claimed as a destination for for tourists to visit in next year. So we can keep our good hopes on that aspect as well. Now I would like to turn towards Mr. Muhammad Didi Haddana. So I would like to ask about now you are a climate finance specialist. So especially I want to get a brief picture about the situation of global climate financing. Now, what can you say? It's now in a good position, or what's our status in the global arena?
Okay, thank you so much, first of all, for inviting NDPC to this discussion. It's a pleasure to be here along with the distinguished panel and to share some regional perspective. If I may, maybe just a brief intro of our organization. The Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, or ADPC, is an international organization for cooperation and implementation of disaster risk reduction and also building climate resilience in Asia and the Pacific. So this dialogue is actually very fit with our mandate. So I think in our perspective, climate finance is important and the lifeline of climate action. We often talk about climate crisis and ambitious goals under the Paris Agreement. We know that every country, including Sri Lanka, has also sets its own climate target through policies such as nationally determined contribution, national adaptation plan, and also SDGs framework. But without funding, those goals remain only paper, say. And across developing countries, especially in the global south, including Sri Lanka, climate funding is what helps protecting coastlines, restoring coral reefs, and it's also supporting communities that so depends on sectors such as tourism, water, and also agriculture. And as you asked about what is the situation, so the current studies, the recent studies show that climate finance needs of developing nations are estimated about 1.1 trillion US dollar in 2025 to 1.8 trillion US dollar by 2030. And unfortunately, only a small fraction of that is reaching the most climate vulnerable countries. And also, like the recent data from the United Nations, that global climate finance flows reach an annual average of US dollar 1.3 trillion in the period of 2021 and 2022, which increased from about 63% from the previous period, which is 2019 to 2021. So I think growing trends of climate finance worldwide. But unfortunately, many countries, particularly developing countries, least developed countries, and also small small island states such as Sri Lanka still face challenges in accessing and using climate finance effectively. So I think there is also a need for the global climate finance to move towards supporting climate vulnerable countries.
Yes, Mr. Mohammed, can you briefly explain us the actions by your organization, Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, to ensure the climate finance for necessary targets, and the necessity to fulfill the necessities of the communities in the
Right.
Asia Pacific region?
Okay, so to answer that, I think we also need to understand about what is the global climate finance flow looks like, right? So if we are talking about global climate finance flow, there are three main channels. The first one is the international climate funds, such as the multilateral funds like Green Climate Fund, Global Environmental Facility, Adaptation Fund, and others, as well as also bilateral channels from developed countries like Norway, Japan, UK, and others, who provide like a mix of grants and also concessional loans to support adaptation and mitigation effort. The second one is the development banks. So I think Deputy Minister we mentioned like how Sri Lanka also use funding from Asian development banks or the World Bank to support government large-scale projects and also like a long-term climate actions, right? So those like the second one. And then we also talk about private sector finance. So there are growing trends of instruments such as green bonds, blue bonds, green loans, blended finance, carbon market. There are many things for, which also about bringing private sector, private capital for supporting climate actions beyond the public sources, right? So for IDPC, our role is about helping countries in Asian Pacific to access this international climate fund, right? Through working together with the government to co-develop like a proposals to a green climate fund, for example, or to the development banks, and how that we can also help the government in turning these funds into a practical on-the-ground action that builds resilience and also benefit the local communities. I think one example that in the last 5 years, we just completed like a one big project funded by the World Bank, the Climate Action and Resilience in South Asia, which targeted like 3 countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal. And through this project, we support the government and also the local communities about how they can develop like a policies and also develop innovations that can support innovation on the ground on different sectors such as transport, water, as well as tourism sector.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. I'll come back to you to discuss about the challenges in this process. Okay. I would like to now ask from our Deputy Minister. Sir, can you describe us now, you mentioned about certain global partners in the process. So, can you elaborate more on the international support we get, because as he mentioned the climate financing and especially the financing for sustainable tourism is very important. So, can you elaborate more on our international partners?
Yes, Prasad, I think there is no doubt that all our developments and future actions should be focusing climate resilience. So, in order to focus on keep on this objective, our developments, we are mainly getting the financial support for coming couple of years from Asian Development Bank and the World Bank. So, Asian Development Bank funding, as I said, several key destination development projects which we can divert the traffic as well as enhancing the urban planning and the ecology environment in the surrounding areas. The World Bank is mainly, they have it is like during the negotiation their main concern was it should be the nature based tourism product. So, based on this we have identified several options. One thing is Northeast development, actually in the second stage particularly focusing on Jaffna as you mentioned, and in the first stage there are a number of development projects that we are working on with the Department of Forest Conservation and Department of Wildlife Conservation, and all these projects mainly focusing on wildlife and the forest conservation efforts. So, all these projects while they are making attractive tourism products. So, mainly at the moment what the main organizations that we are working with is the ADB and World Bank, and they are mainly focusing on these funding options to develop nature based tourism to fight against the climate change, mainly global warming and all such adverse climatic conditions that we face, mainly global warming and also adverse weather conditions like drought, heat or flood, all these things to fight against. I think long term approach is needed. So, tourism, our future development, we are focusing on such areas.
Yes. Professor Lanka, now you are directly working with the building up the next the necessary human capacity for our next level tourism related activities. So, what can you say about the improving the professional status of our tourism when considering the considering and developing the concept of sustainability in our future generation who are dedicated to enter into the tourism sector?
Actually, what we have done so far, we have done several research on whether we are actually readiness of Sri Lanka tourism and acceptance of this kind of climate changes. Then we have realized that hotel industry, they are relatively large scale hotel industry, they are relatively applying the climate change impact and the sustainability aspect. But when you go to the travel industry, they are not that much of aware about this particular impact. It is also very important. When you go to the SME sector, we have realized they know about sustainability concept. But if you ask them, okay, in depth about what is this, what kind of activities you are taking, what kind of reaction you are making to resilience against the environmental challenges, they have a lack of knowledge actually. So therefore, the most important thing is we must provide right knowledge and awareness to the people, the stakeholders, to take the responsibility of this tourism to more sustainable and inclusive tourism development. Second thing is when you look at the other side, we have seen that as our Honorable Minister said, there are some initiative must be taken to provide them to encourage that kind of things. Now we have seen that CTDA has introduced a new project with the GSTC, Global Sustainable Tourism Council, and provide some various kind of awareness. So the most important thing, as you question us, okay, now we can see that there is a movement inside of tourism industry to push our industry towards the sustainable development. But there are a lot of things to be done actually. Basically, as you know that tourism industry has become victim of environment pollutions and climate changes. At the same time, they have become vector of the climate changes and the environment pollutions. Now we have seen that some hotels, SME sector basically, they are doing some environmental irresponsible activities that can tarnish, that can actually create the bad impact on the environment as accumulative impact. On the other hand, they have been victim actually. Right now, look at right now when the climate change impact happen, visitor arrivals could be changed, and the climate change impact can create the supply chain of product. Now example, now this flooding, right, recently it was heavy rain, now tourist seasons are started right now, so we want to supply some product for them. Then the tourists are coming to Sri Lanka right now. So if the climate change happen, we cannot predict what kind of places the tourists can visit and what kind of product we can provide them for their satisfaction because of the climate change impact. And their stay in duration of stay of Sri Lanka in one place can be shortened. At the same time, their spending pattern can be changed. So therefore, it is very important to analyze and understand climate change impact on tourism by based on the data driven informations and the evidence based information. So this is very important. I think universities, academic organizations has a very very undividable responsibility to provide some information to the industry for their decision making.
Yes. Mr. Mohammed, now when we talk about the global financing, especially financing for INGOs and financing for various sectors became a very big challenge due to the current status of global certain global situations. So what can you say about the current status of climate financing and the challenges, especially the challenges you are facing in this sector?
Okay, thank you, Prasad. So from our experience working with different countries in Asia Pacific and also in the Africa region, there are several challenges we are seeing across these countries, and I think they are also very relevant to Sri Lanka. So the first one is financing access. So many countries are still struggling to access funding from a large multilateral climate finance institution, like I mentioned before, a Global Climate Fund, a Green Climate Fund, a Global Environmental Facility, and others. Because the application processes of these organizations are complex and also time consuming and requiring like a special skill, to be able to develop like a proper proposal. Sri Lanka, for instance, I think needs more readiness support to strengthen its national climate finance system, and also like how they can access this, funding from the multilateral climate finance institutions, including how then, proper bankable projects can be developed by the countries, by the government, or even by the local actors. The second challenge is the debt-heavy instrument. So I mentioned about like the global finance flows, which are about trillion US dollar, but unfortunately, a large share of this climate finance is loan-based, which of course increase the debt burden of countries, right? Developing countries, least developed countries. For Sri Lanka case, I think, which already maybe faces fiscal pressure, this makes also adaptation and also resilient investment becoming even harder. The third challenge is local level gaps. So when when a country receives climate finance, often this financing stops at the national level. You know, Local government, communities, and including micro, small, and medium enterprises, uh, rarely have like a direct access to this climate fund, or they maybe only get like a small share of the climate funds, right? While, as we know, I mean, the communities on the ground, people living in the coastal areas, in the, rural areas, they are actually the ones who are affected by the climate change, and also implementing practical resilience measure on the ground. And lastly, it's about data and also accountability. We see that many countries don't have, like a robust system to be able to track, monitor, and also report their climate finance flows or measure their impact, right? This is essential because most of the, global climate funds, they would require this kind of system to be able to see how their investment are actually affected, providing, delivering impact, and also like providing benefit to the communities, right? Those are the challenges, but we also see the positive side, that Sri Lanka also has strong potential. And with a holistic approach, we believe that climate finance can deliver and can become a driver of green and resilient growth in Sri Lanka. In addition to that, I think there are also many lesson learned, good practices from Sri Lanka's neighbor countries in South and also Southeast Asia in developing like instruments such as green bonds, or like a blended finance, or maybe using climate tools like climate budget tagging to be able for the government to track and also mainstream climate finance in their public and budgeting system.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. Thank you for your very insightful answer. Now, I would like to pose my last question to our Deputy Minister. Sir, what can you say about the current status of maintaining our tourism sector, especially in the sustainability area? Because you get now in our early question. The answer to my early question, you mentioned about our global partners, the ways and means that we get money, the financing. But at the same time, we have to make a special effort to maintain our sustainability. For example, now Sri Lanka, if we take Sri Lanka, there are a lot of challenges in the, especially when we take beaches, the maintaining the cleanness of the beaches, very simple thing. So, we have to make a special effort to clean our beaches. So, what are the plans in the future to maintain this sustainability in our ecotourism and the general tourism area, while considering, because a lot of financial resources have to mobilize for these things. So, what can you say about this situation, sir?
Yes, Prasad, a very important question. We can talk, very big, massive projects and billions of dollars of investment. But I think it is critically important the attitudinal change, the thinking, way of thinking of people is more important than most of those. For example, whether we, channel all those international financial agencies, if the people on ground, their mentality is not geared towards climate fighting, climate resilience, I think that won't work. So therefore, for example, now our workforce or individual, for example, let's say instead, using the lift, if we have the, mentality to take the staircase, something like that, when you go out from the room, switch off your air conditioner and the fan and the lighting. I mean, these are small micro things, but I think that is a fight against the climate change. So therefore, this nationwide or global wide mentality or the movement, I think it is very important. So talking about the tourism industry, hotel industry, now these are some good or new practices that we need to focus on at organizational level. And going beyond that, we have introduced certain programs like, Blue Beach certificate, and sustainable destination certification, as Professor mentioned. We this year at the beginning we received actually this certification for Sigiriya, and also we are working on several more destinations to get this global level certification, so that we can ensure the sustainability of these destinations. And talking about beaches, we have launched numerous programs, and in fact the Clean Sri Lanka project itself, parallel to this one, a lot of activities we have cleaned now most of our beaches. And as Tourism Development Authority, we also have granted several beach cleaning machines, tractors, to local government agencies, so that they can keep their beaches. So we are working while channeling international finance at the operational level. There is lots more to do, including the individual change of way of thinking of individuals.
Yes. For that aspect, what's your message to our general public?
I think climate fighting is much more serious issue in front of us, for all of us. So it is the duty of all of us to be sensitive to this growing issue, because the global warming or adverse weather conditions and all such things will be a greater challenge in the future coming years. So it is our duty to fight against this global warming and climate change everywhere, every aspect, every moment that we could do. Tourism is an area particularly that we contribute more on carbon emission. So as individuals who engage in this industry or live in this industry, I think it is our duty to fight every possible moment against this climate change.
Thank you. With that message, we are going to wind up this discussion. So I would like to thank first Professor Ruwan Ranasinghe, Deputy Minister of Tourism, and Professor Suranga Silva, Sustainable Tourism Unit of the University of Colombo. Then our expert from Thailand, Mr. Muhammad Didi Hadina, Climate Finance Specialist, Asian Disaster Preparedness Center of Thailand. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your valuable contribution to educate our society, to create awareness among our people on one of the greatest aspects and one of the greatest fact that will be useful for the survival of our future generation. And with that, this discussion will come to an end, but we will meet in the future with similar type of discussion to discuss another important aspect of climate action and disaster prevention. Thank you very much and good night.